Hi there, Buick owners. Today in your 2021 Buick Encore GX, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Roadmaster's diode wiring kit. This kit is available in several different configurations, but the bulk kit is going to come with the diodes and the wiring you need to get it installed. The only thing that really changes between these kits is the cable that will come included with it on how you're going to connect from your vehicle to your motorhome. And this is what our diode wiring looks like when it's installed. That's right, it looks just like a factory vehicle because the diodes are installed behind our taillight assembly here. So whenever you need to use your vehicle and flat tow it behind your motorhome, since our components are permanently installed, we simply plug into a connector at the front of the vehicle, just like we were hooking up to a trailer or anything else, and we get those lighting signals here at the back using our factory lights. And that's my ideal situation, is using the factory lights, because you can see they're nice and bright. We don't have to do any modifications to the assembly here. There are bulb and socket kits that's available here at each trailer, which will allow you to install a bulb inside the assembly. However, I don't personally like those kits as much as this because you have to modify that assembly. You're drilling a hole into it. And in a lot of cases with the new modern taillights being LED, there's just not enough room in there for those bulbs. Having proper lighting at the back of your vehicle will ensure that when you're flat towing your vehicle, the people behind you will know your intentions when going down the road. And having lights here in the back is also going to ensure you're DOT compliant in all states when you're flat towing. One other style of lights that you can have for a flat tow setup are magnetic lights, in which you would set those onto the roof of your vehicle. The magnets would hold them in place, and then you just route the cable up to the front to plug into your motorhome. That's an okay setup if you've got a lot of vehicles you like maybe transfer from one place to another and you just need to set some lights up. But if this is your full-time kind of flat tow vehicle, with those you have to get them out every single time you want to flat tow, versus with diodes here you just simply plug your connector in when you're hooking up your tow bar and everything else. Having to get those out every time and set them up is going to spend a lot of time doing that. And over time, the magnetic pads, they do have anti-abrasion pads on the bottom to prevent scratches and abrasions to your roof, but those do wear out over time, and the next thing you know, you could have some marks on top because you're using some old worn out magnetic lights. Something like this is just going to be on there, ready whenever you need it, and once it's installed, you'll never even know that it's there. And here we've got the various cables right here for the different configurations you can get this kit in. The one we installed today was the 4 flat, and if you get the 4 flat, you'll have that here at the front of your vehicle, and it'll come with a 4 flat which will plug into your vehicle as well as into the motorhome. So this is the cable that'll connect those two together. But you can also get the kit. Here's our 4 round to 7-way round, and that'll come with a 4-way connector and 4-way round connector instead of a flat. And then these here are all 6-way round to 7-way round. However, you can see this one here is a straight cable, and that's going to be ideal if you have a tow bar that has channels that run down it, so you can run your cable down the channel and that'll hold it up and make it nice and neat. This here is our coiled option. It's got the same connector ends on it, but it's coiled. And this is if you have a tow bar that doesn't have any kind of cable management or channel for it. That way you can see here when it's plugged into the motorhome, the coil keeps it up off the pavement. And lastly, we've got our hybrid cable here. And this one has a straight section, so you can run it through the channels of your tow bar, but it also has a small coiled section, so that way you've got enough length to be able to reach your motorhome. This is often used when you have a tow bar with channels, but you also need maybe a high-low adapter or some sort of extension in there, and that's why we've got this extra coiled end here so we can make sure we can reach that 7-way on our motorhome. If you get one of these, you can get that included with a 6-way connector for the front here, and that would mount right up to your base plate rather than the 4-way. And if you have the 4-way round cable, you would get the 4-way round connector, which would actually mount inside of the bracket here on the Roadmaster base plate. Other base plates may not have these mounting locations, but we've got brackets available here at each trailer for 4 flat, 4 round, and 6 round, so just about any combination, so you can get those mounted here at the front. We'll begin our installation here at the back of the vehicle with our liftgate open. We're going to remove both the driver and passenger side taillight assemblies. We'll take our flat-bladed screwdriver, and there's notches at both the top and the bottom. We're just going to stick our screwdriver in there, give it a little bit of a twist, and it's going to pop that cap out of there. We'll pop out the one below as well, and that's going to reveal our fasteners inside. There's just 2, one behind each one. We'll take a T15 Torx to remove those. And they do like to kind of I'll fall down in there. If they do, it's no big deal. You can fish them out of there. It's kind of deep in there. After we remove both of our bolts, the assembly is going to go straight rearward. A trim panel tool can assist you because you can kind of put it in there and give yourself a little bit of a kind of a prying twist as you go to bring this rearward. There we go. We got it straight rearward, and that's going to reveal our fastener, or reveal our wires here. Now we're not going to be able to disconnect any of these. They're made into the assembly here. Even if we pull the little grommet, we're not going to be able to access the connector. So now we've got this side removed. These are the circuits we're going to be concerning ourselves with here, the red and the green. But we need to be able to access this a little bit better. So we're going to take a razor knife and just cut back some of this sheathing off of here. Your assembly you can kind of just set back in place while you're going to get tools, so that way you can get this all done. So we're just taking our snips here, and we're going to be careful not to cut any of the wires, just the zip tie off the end there. And then we can start to peel this back, or you could use a razor knife to cut it back as well. If you are going to use a razor knife, you just want to be careful when slitting these back because we don't want to damage our wires. A lot of times what I'll do after I get a nice little cut, I'll switch over and just start to peel it off as far as I can, because the less time you spend with your razor knife, the less chances you have of having an accident. And we're going to continue to peel it back pretty far, almost until we get to where it's passing through the grommet, probably about right there. That's about where we want to be, right there. We'll just take our snips now, trim the rest of that excess off. And now we've got plenty of wire to work with here. The green and the red are the two wires that we're going to be utilizing. So we're going to take those at about this point here. This looks like a pretty good spot because we're trying to get to where we can kind of hide our diodes in the cavities around here. So we're just trying to find a good spot there. So this is a pretty good location. So we'll take both of these wires. We'll snip those. Then we'll grab our strippers and we're going to strip back each one of these wires. Your diodes are going to have blue spade terminals attached to them. They're just going to pull right off of there. We're going to make sure we've got 4 of these pulled off. Then we'll take each one of these wires. I like to twist them because it makes it slide into the spade terminals a little bit easier. We'll then take one of those blue spade terminals. We're going to slide it over the wire. And then we're just going to crimp it down. Once we get this one crimped, we're just going to repeat that for the 3 remaining wires. Now that we've got a spade terminal crimped onto each one of these wires, we can take our diode and we're just going to plug our wires into our diode. The inside is going to be the wires coming from our grommet side here on the vehicle, and out is going to go towards the light. And that's pretty much how these are always going to go. Out is always going to go towards the light you're trying to illuminate. So we're just going to plug in the green wire on the light side to the out, take the green wire on the car side and plug it into the in. We'll then just grab another diode. And same way, we're going to put the out on the light side of the red wire, and then the in on the other side of our wire. And we can now grab ourselves a fish wire so we can start feeding our wire up. Again, you can set this back into place when you're going to grab any tools. We've gone ahead and taken our light assembly and we just set it right inside the tailgate here. If you pull the grommet out there, you'll have just enough length to be able to do so. We'll then take our fish wire. We're using some airline tubing. If you're at home, a metal coat hanger, if you unwind it, those work really well. We're gonna push it down through the opening here in our bumper. And then we should be able to kind of just come down and usually just kind of reaching around the side, and there it is right there. Just grabbing that and pulling it. Now that we've got it down here, we'll be attaching our wire to this end so we can pull this to pull our wire back up. It's one of the easiest ways to get our wire up there. So now we'll just take our fish wire we ran down. We're just gonna set our 4-pole wiring kind of right up on it there. And we're gonna use some electrical tape to attach our wiring to our fish wire. With our wire taped to our fish wire, we can just pull the other end now, and we're just pulling our wire up. We can see we've got our wire attached there. You can then either use your razor knife to cut it off or pull it off of there, whichever way. Save your fish wire because we're gonna need this over on the other side to pull wires up over there as well. So now that we've got our wires routed up here, we're gonna separate out the green wire. This is for the passenger side. These ones we'll need over here on the driver's side. If you got the 4-way kit, we already cut these ends and we can just peel this back. If you have the kit with the 6- and 7-way cables, they're gonna be sealed together just like they are right here at this portion of the cable. Just take your snips and you can just cut in between the wires and then you can peel it back just like this. So we're gonna peel back the green wire some, because this goes to the passenger side. And then we're just gonna hold on to this end. We'll pull our wire back down, get that green wire out of there, and then we can just pull this right back up. I like to make sure we got plenty of slack up here so that way it doesn't fall back down. Now at this point, we can take each one of these wires and we'll need to separate these out just a little bit to make them easier to work with. We'll then strip back the yellow, brown and white wire here, and we can get these connected. We're going to be using a portion of the white wire as a jumper to get the brown wire circuit over to the passenger side. Our brown wires are tail lights. The white wire is ground, but we can ground really anywhere on the chassis of the vehicle. So we can use some of this white wire here to accomplish getting that brown signal over to the other side. So once we get these stripped. So now we've got those all stripped back. The yellow wire I've twisted. We're gonna put a blue spade terminal on our yellow wire. We'll crimp that on. And then we're gonna take the white and the brown wire and we're gonna twist these two together. We'll take the single yellow spade terminal that's going to come on one of your diodes, pull that one off of there, and that's what we're going to use here. We're using the yellow one here because it has a larger diameter opening, which will allow it to accommodate 2 circuits in there easily. We'll then crimp this guy down. And we're now ready to hook up to our diodes. We can now go ahead and plug these in. Our green circuit that we had cut is our taillight circuit, so that's going to get our brown wire since that's our taillight circuit that's going to be coming from the motorhome. So we just plugged it into the other end. The red wire we cut is our stop and turn circuit, so that's going to get the yellow wire because that's our stop turn circuit that's going to be coming from our motorhome. So we're just going to plug this one in right over here. And they are very close, so you might need to move those over just a little bit when trying to get everything connected into there. There we go, we've got everything connected. Now I like to take the sticker here and we're just peeling that off. We'll then peel off the sticker on the other side. Give ourselves a little more slack there. And we're just going to take these 2 diodes and we're just going to stick them together. Now what I like to do is we're going to be putting the assembly kind of back into place. Make sure we put our grommet in there. And then our yellow wire that we had fed down, I like to make sure we bring that back here to where our grommet is. And we'll use one of the zip ties that come included with our kit to secure it to this location. And I'm giving myself a little bit of slack so that way I can maneuver my diodes around so I can get my assembly reinstalled easily. So we're just grabbing a zip tie now, just kind of running it around the wire there. So we're going to give ourselves a little slack and then snug it down. And now we've got all of our circuits connected here on the driver's side. We can go ahead and get this side snapped back in. Cut off the excess of our zip tie real quick. And I'm kind of tucking the diodes up under this location here too to make them fit. We're kind of tucking in that area. We're just kind of keeping an eye on things as we put them back together. There we go, we're snapped back into place. I would recommend holding off on putting your hardware in until you've tested your diodes in case you need to pop this back off. It's not uncommon when you got your diodes back in there and you snap this back into place that one of those spade terminals gets caught on something and it pulls off. You got to find that right sweet spot there because there is pretty tight limited space back behind there. So we'll just leave that here and we're going to get the passenger side installed. It's going to use the same circuits. The only thing that's going to be different is we're using part of that white wire to jumper the brown circuit over, and our green wire is our passenger side stop turn circuit. So I'm going to get those wires routed over to the other side, and then I'll show you the path I took to get those over there. Before we route the wires though, we need to know how much white wire our jumper wire is going to be, how the length of it. So we're going to take our green wire here, and we're kind of just pulling on the green wire, extending it over to the passenger side, because we know it's going to be hidden kind of behind the fascia back here. And we also know that after we get over so far, we're going to have to go up. So we're just kind of mocking it up on this side until we get roughly the amount of wire length that we know is going to reach back here. And that looks pretty good right there. So what we'll do then is take the green wire, and this is the wires going back up behind the driver's side taillight assembly. We're just folding these back along our wire, and we're just stretching it out. We'll find out where the white wire ends, where the green wire ends. So that's just running along here. And right there's where our green wire ends. So we're just going to line that up with our white wire over here. We're going to make a small snip on just the white wire. And I probably haven't even cut it all the way through it yet, but that'll mark my spot. Then I'll fold it in half. We can then carefully snip in between the brown and the white wire. That'll separate that out. And then if we need to finish cutting through the wire, we can. And then we can peel some of this back. Like we didn't cut quite all the way through on this side yet. Okay, now that we've got that peeled back, we're going to be taking the white wire portion that's connected up with our brown wire there, and we're just going to peel this back until we reach the point where our green wire is peeled back. And now I know I've got enough length of wire to get over to this side, so I'm going to go ahead and get that routed back up in here now, and then we'll show you that path. So now we're over on the passenger side. We took that green and that white wire, routed them over here, brought them up, and it's very similar connections over here. You're going to cut the green and the red wire just like we did over on the driver's side, and they're going to hook into the diodes exactly the same. The only difference on this side is our green wire is the passenger side stop and turn circuit, so that plugs into the diode with the red circuit, and the white wire is that extension that we made from the brown circuit, which is our taillight circuit, and it's the same on this side. It's going to go to the green wires for our taillights. So now we've got these all connected, we'll just pop this guy back into place, and then we'll get our wire routed up to the front to where you can either just mount your 4-way, or we can attach it to a 6-way connector. We're now underneath the vehicle on the driver's side at the back, and this is the area where I'd stuck my arm up to grab that fish wire and pull it down. These are our wires coming down right here from behind the driver's side taillight assembly. We go above the bumper beam here, and then we just go straight across. We went above the bumper beam to get away from our exhaust because we want to avoid anything excessively hot, such as the exhaust, and anything moving like our steering and suspension components. So we go above the bumper beam once again when we get to this side, and we use that pull wire trick once again to get our wire up behind the passenger side assembly so we can get them connected over there. Now that we've got all of our connections made at our taillights here at the back, we're underneath once again, and we need to get our wire routed towards the front. So this is all the rest of our wires right here. They're going towards the front of the vehicle. We go up above our exhaust there. Once we get past the exhaust, we go up above our suspension, and we can see our factory wiring here. We try to stay near that factory wiring whenever we can and zip tie it to that because we know that's already routed in a location where it's not going to get damaged by any components. Once we get there towards the back of our fuel tank, we then go down the side of the fuel tank, and then we'll continue towards the front of the fuel tank until we get over to our lines. We'll take a pause here though, because you might have noticed the white wire that was hanging down back here. This white wire right back here is the remaining white wire that's heading towards the front of the vehicle. The rest of the white wire we had used as a jumper back there. We need this to be our ground, so we can ground it to this panel right here. We just took it and just kind of pulled it off to give ourselves some slack. And we can ground it really to anything over here. Anywhere on the frame is fine. Just wherever is easiest for you to get your tool in place. This is actually a pretty good little spot right there, but I don't really like having the bends around it, so we're probably going to put ours towards this bottom corner down here. So I've already stripped back the white wire there. We'll then take the ring terminal that comes included with our kit. We're going to slide that over our stripped wire. We'll crimp that down, and now we've got our ring terminal, so we can make our connection there. You'll receive a self-tapper in your kit, this little self-tapping screw. We'll use an 8mm socket for the head. We'll just slide this through our ring terminal and then tighten it down. And sometimes what I like to do, rather than slide it through the ring terminal to begin with, I'll just run the screw into place, because it can sometimes be difficult to get the self-tapping screws to start. And if you're trying to fight keeping it in that ring terminal, it just makes it even harder. So there we go, we've got it started in there. We can then just pull it back out, slide it through our ring terminal, and then we can reinstall it. And you just want to make sure that it's nice and tight. I'm giving it a little bit of push side to side to make sure it doesn't spin. If you do like we did, we put the screw in first and then pulled it out to run it through the ring terminal. If you spend a long time drilling into there, the screw can get pretty hot, so you might want to spray it down with some water or something before popping it back out. So now we've got our ground wire attached. We're going to meet back up here at the front of our fuel tank. Here's our wire here. We just zip tie it to these little metal tabs going forward. We then cross over our lines here, and we zip tie it to the plastic bracket. I'm not zip tying to the lines, but I'm zip tying it to the bracket. And we just kind of do that going forward, zip tying it to the bracket along the way. Once we get to this point, this is where you need to make a decision on where you want to go with your wire, depending if you have a braking system that needs to tap into the diodes or not. Our customer has a portable braking system that doesn't need diodes at all. It doesn't need signals from those to operate, but many of your permanent mount braking systems, and even a few of the portables, require you to tap into these wires to get braking signals from your motorhome. If that's the case, then you would want to route these up the firewall towards your battery and stuff up there. That way you can easily make connections for your braking system. If you don't have any kind of need to tap into these wires, you can just stay down here along the bottom all the way. And that's kind of what we did. We did go up there above the lines, but then we just came over here on the side and we just follow factory wiring here. We just kind of jump around the outside, staying behind all the factory wiring there. Poke it behind our panel here until it comes out the other side of the panel here. We just push this panel back to be able to do so. We're tucking it behind any factory wiring along the way. And then we just route it over towards the front here. Now you might notice here that we've got the front of the vehicle off. That's because we had just installed the base plate. After you get your base plate installed, this is the best time to install the rest of your flat toe components, which includes your diode wiring and your braking systems and whatnot. It's a lot easier to route those wires while you've got this off. So now that we've got those routed up here, at this point, since we have the 4-pole connection, we can just bundle up any excess we've got here and zip tie it to our base plate. If we did have the diode wiring that came with a 6-pole connector, we would then need to attach these circuits to that 6-pole connector. After that, then we would reinstall our fascia. Now, if you are going to use a 6-pole connector, I would recommend installing your fascia first before connecting your wires to that 6-pole connector, because in most cases, the large 6-pole connector is not going to pass through the fascia. Usually you put the fascia on, feed your wires through the hole, and then we can get those in place after the fascia is installed. Well, now I'll show you how you'll hook it to a 6-way connector if you needed to. This is what you would see with those kits that come with a 6-way connector. You just have bare wires here at the end, just like this. So what you'd want to do is, after you get your fascia back on, you'll feed this through. And I usually like to cut off the excess, but I like to leave myself a little bit, so that way we have an easy way to be able to pull this out if we need to do any repairs in the future or add additional accessories. So we'll just fold this back then, and we'll cut off any excess. We don't need to save any of that other stuff there. This will be plenty long enough for us to make our connections. We'll then take each one of these circuits. We're going to snip it in between each one of those wires, and then we'll pull those back and we'll strip each one of these back. Now we've got each one stripped. You'll take your 6-way connector. We're gonna take the dust boot off of it. We'll slide that over our wires. And then we'll take each one of these. I like to twist them. It'll slide into the connector on your 6-way easier. And we also don't want to have any straggling circuits, because it could potentially short from one of the terminals at the back of the 6-way to another, and that can cause circuits to not function like you would expect. They may stay on when they're not supposed to, or not work at all. After we've got those done, we'll grab our 6-way now, and you're going to need a pretty small screwdriver. You can use a Phillips or a flat, and we need to loosen up the circuits that we're going to be connecting to with our wires there. So I like to start with ground, and if we look here, they are labeled, and it says GD. GD is ground, which is our white wire. So we'll loosen that one up. And we're just going to work our way around. LT is left turn, which is our which is our yellow wire for left turn. Next is RT, which is right turn. That's going to be our green wire. Next is S. We won't be using that one. That can be for your additional accessories. Next, after that, we have, it's labeled TM, and that is our brown wire. That's our taillight circuit. And then the center pin is often used for a charge line kit if you were installing one. We're not installing one, so we're not going to be using the center pin either. So now that we've gone around and loosened all those up, we're just going to take each one and put it in its respective hole. So again, that was just GD white for ground. You also want to make sure you don't push the wire in too far to where the screw, when you tighten it down, that you're tightening on the sheathing. You want to make sure the screw's tightening on your exposed circuits. And last is our TM, which is our tail lights, and that's our brown wire. We'll poke that in there. Now at this point, you can install it onto your base plate. Roadmaster base plates have an attachment point here at the front, and you'll use the hardware that comes with the base plate to attach it there. There's also brackets available here at each trailer. If you have a base plate that doesn't provide you with a electrical mounting, you can use those to get your connectors mounted up. On back for our connector here, We would want to fill this up with dielectric grease. That'll keep out any dirt, debris, and moisture in the back here. We're not going to be doing that today for demonstration purposes, but you would want to fill that up. You can get dielectric grease here at eTrailer, and you'll slide your dust boot over top of that, sealing all that dielectric grease in. And then I like to take electrical tape and then seal up around the front lip here to keep the dust boot from sliding off, and along the back here as well, just to help seal in all that dielectric grease and make sure that stays in there. Once you've got all your connections made, at this point you would just want to test it out. You can plug it into your motorhome. I've gone ahead and plugged it into a tester, and we just want to verify we've got all of our lighting signals, which is going to include our tail lights. Got those on both sides. Our left turn signal looks good. Our right turn signal, good over there. And lastly, our brake lights. And with all of our signals working properly here at the back, we're ready to hook up to our motorhome and hit the road. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's diode wiring on our 2021 Buick Encore GX.